Welcome to the Future of Tech. Today, we have the honor of speaking with Kyle Doran, the CEO and co-founder of the NetVR. In this episode, we dive into the current IT and software development strategy of the NetVR and explore their vision for the future. Kyle will guide us through the challenges and opportunities they encounter and how they are preparing for the rapidly changing technological landscape. Let's get started. All right, welcome, Kyle. So, can you tell us about your role as a founder, as a co-founder and a CEO of the NetVR, and what inspired you to start this venture?
Yeah, thanks for having me on. It's been it's a passion. That's what started the adventure. Passion for gaming.
Yeah. Obviously, what's your history then? Is it in let's say in IT, tech related, or not at all?
The passion started as gamer. I'm as a gamer my entire life, and in the gaming sphere when I was younger, it wasn't a viable opportunity, I guess, or wasn't really going to provide food on the table for a family. I've fast forward 15 years. I went back in and I started noticing there were people that were making it in gaming and they were making millions in gaming even. It is an entertainment industry, but it's what I enjoy doing the most, and the passion, drove me to start my own company within the space.
Yeah, and if you do good, I think it's obviously it's a big industry. At least some of the companies are making millions. So I can understand that if you are able to, create, let's say, your work out of your hobby, right? That's ideal work, especially if it's gaming. All right, but the NetVR, it focuses on creating immersive VR environments, right, for streamers and audiences. So, what led you to choose this specific niche in the VR industry?
Well, so VR is done mainly through gaming. The predominant use for virtual reality these days is gaming. Anything that's used behind a head-mounted display. I mean, there's education, there's other adaptations of it, but predominantly, I think it's over like 60 to 75% of usage is within an entertainment use. That's the current situation, though, is when you talk about gaming, there's a lot of other forms of gaming that aren't done behind a head-mounted display, and changing that perception in the world is very difficult. A lot of people think of virtual reality as this head-mounted display only type of use case. When gaming in general, instead of most people just using 2D screens and scrolling endlessly, it can actually go forward and backward in this new space, this new 3D space that people are constantly trying to rebrand these days.
Obviously, what you do, what NetVR does is you're not using a headset. So, what are the biggest challenges that you face in creating this VR experience that is engaging for let's say your users?
It's keeping the experience seamless across all display devices. So your cell phone, your TV, your head-mounted display, your computer display, making it seamless across all of those devices is very challenging. Because each device has its own use case, right? It has its own types of inputs and outputs. Some people have controllers, some people have flat screens, some people are using different things.
Yeah, I can imagine, especially when I think if you develop it on different platforms, different languages, it will be very hard to get an almost identical version on every platform, right?
It's correct. And so, and that's one of our goals, is to have the experience seamless across all of those devices. Um, right. A lot of people will start getting more towards like being super realistic. So some of the game engines that are out there are hyper realistic and they look awesome. And that's what is the emerging. I don't know if that's the right word. So like to be immersed is the the draw is for the graphics to be super high realistic. Uh, but when you look at the processing power of say like a cell phone, you don't have the same processing power of a cell phone as you do inside of a computer. So you can't have the same quality of graphics between the same spaces, but you can still connect with people in the same space. So having that experience across all those devices is very, very challenging.
So yeah, so how do you balance that then? How do you balance then quality versus experience?
So for us, it's still very tricky right now. We're still way early on in the stages. But our current is to make sure that the environments that we're in are not super high fidelity, so that they're easy on all devices.
Yeah.
We've started there. So our first concept is a theater. Theaters are very basic. There's not a lot of things going on in a theater per se.
Yeah.
So as long as we keep, our poly counts low, we're able to kind of maintain this space, and then hopefully users can branch out from there into hopefully a little higher or lower quality spaces, but hopefully they'll have the right device when they need to go to those more graphic needed or graphic intensive worlds.
Yeah. And so, and looking at the NetVR, and looking at competition, so what do you do differently, and how do you adapt to the, let's say, the growing competition that you have in let's say VR and live streaming markets?
So yeah, we have tons of competition inside of the virtual reality 3D social space. There's other social applications. However, our application really bridges 2D platforms that are already kind of well established. Twitch, YouTube Live, any kind of live streaming content. We really try to mesh that live streaming content with this new 3D space that we're creating, this new social space. And with that, a lot of new types of engagement can happen. There's a lot of different types of partnerships that we can have with vendors, or not with vendors, but with businesses and platforms such as podcasts. Any kind of, we try to focus more on live entertainment, but there's a lot of other entertainment that's out there that you can start to kind of share this 2D space or force this 2D space into a 3D type of environment where people can socialize and be there together and watch the content together.
Yeah. Well, and especially since people probably are also not only gaming, but also working more remotely, creating an environment where you can actually be together is something different, obviously, than having a screen in the old-fashioned way, I would say.
Yeah. Yeah, to us we call it presence. Presence is super, so that digital presence, like that by seeing, hey, there's 10 people watching, there's 15 people watching, there's 30 people watching. We're drawn to places where there's a lot of people, and if we see that there's other people also watching, we just want to be in that space. And so that's one thing that we focus in on, and you can at least see somebody to your right and left while you're still focused in on the main stage.
Yeah, which is interesting. Obviously, there is a difference between wearing the device, a headset, a VR headset, which is probably still slightly different compared to you. And obviously, you're doing this without a headset. I think that's the biggest challenge, probably. If you look at the future, where do you see the Net VR in the next 5 years, and how do you see your role evolving, and maybe the role of VR evolving in the coming years?
Right. So right now, technology in general is evolving people rapidly. It's scary. You can see kids that are able to swipe through smartphones faster than they're even able to walk. Right. So the general times that we're in right now are crazy. Like, we didn't have technology, so we didn't have little mini pocket computers in our hands when I was a kid. I was still, walking around with a huge brick Nokia, and the only thing it could do is, SMS message back and forth. That was the crazy thing that we could that I could do. When my parents, they were using the rotary phone to be able to call. The amount of technology that we're exposed to right now in this point in society is insane. Where does the net VR kind of fit in? Our biggest change is using devices, or using these display devices that we spend 8-10 hours a day. Some of us, I think that number will continue to increase and has continued to increase. Display device, any kind of device usage is increased. And I hate to pull or rein people back in, but if we can make this space positive and help it thrive for everybody to use the virtual space together, I think that'll be a lot better for the future. So in 5 years, I see people using more technologies that are less cloudy.
Maybe that's part of development in general, that as soon as something new is in the market, then you get a lot of different options, especially when people start adopting it. You get a lot of different options, and then over time only a few will be successful, and then hopefully those will be used by the general public. We can see that, I think, in the history as well, with a lot of different things. So maybe the net VR could be one of them. That would be nice, right?
So that's our push, at least. Good luck pushing there.
And so, what are your strategic priorities then, if you want to make VR more accessible for, let's say, a broader audience in the coming years?
Yeah, so it kind of goes back down to what we've talked about before. VR right now is understood as head-mounted displays. That's how we see it. So that's kind of our different strategic. I think we had Metaverse that came out, so that was its term on virtual reality, spatial computing. When Apple came out with their head-mounted display, they didn't want to call it a VR headset. They didn't have anything else to call it, so the Vision Pro. They stayed away from anything that was labeled VR. To try and really break the market mentality of just, this space, this computing space, is 2 inches from my eyes, and it allows for this high level of immersion. It goes back to our strategy of breaking away and really opening up the gaming space. The predominant usage these days of social media is to swipe up on a screen, and you're just stuck in this 2D plane. Where in gaming, specifically, most gamers have used the 3D space. They're moving back and forth, or forward and backward in the space. And that's really our strategic priority, is just kind of opening up the virtual space of, hey, just getting you to use 3D virtual space instead of just a 2D plane. Yeah.
Which, by the way, if you talk about gaming, and you mentioned this, it's funny because we're used to working on phones now, scrolling in 2D, and while games have been for a very long time in 3D already, right? So if you look at first-person shooters or any sports game, everything is basically 3Ds, but the difference probably is it's more expensive to create it, especially in the past, and it will be in the future because it gets better and better and better. So the experience is different, but the funny thing is we actually are already using 3D worlds, but then for gaming.
Correct. It all starts. Well, so predominantly gamers are the ones that push that metric. A lot of people are like, "Hey, you're gaming. You're wasting your time. Look at a football game, right? Or look at any kind of sporting event. Well, that's a waste of time technically, but it brings people together. It adds a lot of entertainment, and that is important. All on its own right.
Yeah, I think so too. And so, if you look at, let's say, the coming years in virtual reality and in this technology, what do you think will have the greatest impact on how audiences interact with the content?
I mean, the VR industry even in itself, I mean, they're fighting their own term, VR. So a lot of have gone to now XR, so extended reality, and it's really kind of the same thing that the Net VR's kind of push and drive is that hey, okay, we're not just stuck in this head-mounted display device, and being device agnostic or cross-platform is usually what we call it in the industry. That's the main key innovation and trend. VR is now calling itself XR to try and find investment from someplace, because head-mounted display usage or VR in general is very, very limited, and there's not a lot of people that want to put head-mounted displays on to use virtual reality when you'll spend 8 hours in front of a computer screen sometimes.
Yeah, I agree. And so, do you have like a use case or example that listeners or the audience in this case, getting better understanding of how extended reality in this case can be used in the near future?
How can it be used? Well, one of the main actually like useful cases is within engineering and designing buildings. You can put in you can take a picture, a 3D Matterport plot of a construction site, and you can virtually go through the site with a head-mounted display on. In theory, you could go through it on a laptop or a tablet that's sitting there, and you can share the experience. You'd be like, oh, this is where the office is going to go. This is where the warehouse is going to go. Type of thing where those things are coming. Matterports and 3D scans are coming. They're here. It's getting those experiences more seamless for the end user. No one's going to carry a head-mounted display to an office, but everybody has a cell phone in their pocket.
Yeah.
So use the device that's predominantly there, and one that people will enjoy using. But understanding that 3D space is super important. I call it gaming, but there's plenty of other things that you can use within the 3D space that are awesome. Like, hey, taking Matterport plot and now walking through a scan of a construction site.
Yeah, makes sense. All right, and so how does in this case the Net VR incorporate cutting edge technology to stay ahead and deliver unique viewer experiences?
I mean, we kind of are more ahead. Like, we're using a 2D Riverside streaming platform right now that keeps everything in 2D, but volumetric streaming is out there where, hey, we could record myself in a 3D suit. It's out there. The technology is still coming. It's not the graphic rate streaming 3D graphics is super bit intensive. But it looks super awesome when you can see a real live character being streamed in a video game. It's insane. But that still needs some compression and some help. But our application, we're streaming in 2D, so that's easy to do. That's being done. But coming is volumetric streaming, which, hey, you could volumetric stream a sporting event, and all of a sudden now you're able to walk amongst your favorite sporting athlete while they play live in a game, where you can stand on the court even while they play around you. So we're there. Like, it's coming. You'll be able to stand half court and be able to see all the players moving around you, and that's coming.
This reminds me of let's say the 3 or even 4D experiences you have in amusement parks like Disney, for example, where you actually feel someone sneezing right while you're in the chair. That's the same experience you could have, being on a pitch somewhere or on the field, experiencing, players walking around you.
Yes. It's that immersion. That immersion factor is really that key word of, hey, how much immersion, or how being able to stand on the 50-yard line while in the middle of a live match is, I mean, that's amazing.
Yeah, that would be great. That would be amazing. Okay, so I think many people believe that VR is still not there yet. It can go much further. It has yet to reach its full potential. So what do you think needs to happen? Maybe not only in looking at technology, but also at culture, for VR to become, let's say, a mainstream tool. Obviously, we already discussed not maybe wearing the headset and finding different ways to create the same experience. But what is your opinion on that?
So when you look at the future, what we did is we actually stopped 4 years ago. Oh man, time's flying by. We stopped and we looked. Hey, if you're gonna look so far in the future, let's look at the past and see where virtual reality has come. Like what is virtual reality? And then we looked at, okay, what is a reality? And we kind of broke reality down as time, space, and matter. Some people get really bored when you learn how the watch is made. But when you break reality down to those three elements, it helps you define what virtual reality really is. A lot of people have different kind of concepts of what virtual reality is. And 30 years ago, we landed on this head-mounted display device usage as being all of virtual reality. When virtual reality, when head-mounted displays really, all they do is add this super jacked up level of immersion, because you're basically blocking off all of real reality around you and you're only able to see a specific reality. And that goes down to the matter. And we talk about that time, space, and matter. It's that matter portion that we're trying to get out there. We're trying to get scientists kind of on our side to understand, what maybe is, if reality is defined by that, if they can help prove that hey, okay, that actually does make sense. And then you're able to kind of build off of that momentum of, hey, this is a stable base. This, we can all now rethink of what it is, and then be able to build off of that. And it when you're able to build off a good foundational technique of, the X's are X's and O's, or the same types of things. It helps everybody push the technology forward together in a way that makes sense for everybody.
Yeah. Yeah, and what do you then think the role of VR will play, let's say, in the broader tech landscape, and especially looking at augmented reality and AI? They're also evolving. So what does VR play? What the role does it play?
Yeah, so like AI is the new hot FOMO term that's out there. AI, it plays in the virtual matter, so it plays within the virtual space where it's computing and understands bit matter better than it understands real reality matter. We call it atomic is real reality, and so the virtual reality itself, it's the foundation of that space. And so I don't know that the virtual reality itself will continue to evolve, but how we use virtual reality will continue to evolve. Like, we'll see new entities. So AI is kind of the new entity, or it's not AI in general. It's how we process the virtual space, or how we consciously perceive the virtual space. We're getting so much information now that's able to hit us when we use AI tools that it's kind of crazy. It's insane how much information is getting hit through an AI filter these days. It's amazing.
Yeah, and I think AI in general will accelerate tech, and therefore will also accelerate VR.
Correct. The new AI, the way parallel processing works, AI that actually uses old graphical processors, which 3D graphics is kind of the same way, and a graphical company is leading the AI charge. It's interesting. You're just able to perceive consciously more bits with AI tools. So you're able to perceive more virtual reality using the AI tool, which is really cool.
Yeah, I can imagine. Okay, and so obviously you've been building and working on the NetVR for a while now. So can you share maybe a particular exciting moment or a breakthrough that you've had while building it?
So it went way back at the start, like way back in the early days. We were looking at competitors. We were trying to start a virtual reality shopping mall. So we all got in our head-mounted displays at the time because we totally believed that they were completely connected and could never be disconnected from 3D space.
Yeah.
And we were walking around the mall, and it was just a standard shopping mall, and it had a theater room inside of it, or a movie cinema. And we walked up there. We went. Okay, well, we can't create a mall with just 3 of us. That project's too big for now. So what can we scale down to? We looked at these movie rooms, and we sat down and we watched movies in VR. There were some competitors that were out at the time, and we went in and we sat down in there. Like, man, this is lame. Like, why are we? We had three of us. We're all sitting there with all of our PCs, and we kept taking the head-mounted displays off and on. And we were like, why don't we just go upstairs and watch a movie together? Like that. This problem's already solved, and it's way better. And when you look at it, what big films and movies are meant for, you to sit there and not do anything and not engage with other people. Where, like, let's say live content, like a live sporting event, is meant for you to engage with other people. And so that was one of our aha breakthroughs when we were like, hey, let's put movies on the screen. We're like, no, that's not going to work. It's not really that entertaining. But when you put live content or live entertainment on the screen, it builds this different type of immersion that you want to socialize with the person next to you. Because we're on virtual, we can be anywhere we want. In the real reality, it allowed us to use this VR space, or this 3D kind of gaming space, to be able to socialize again.
Yeah, I agree, and I think it's probably, let's say, the how we will use it in the future. Obviously, is to be engaged with others. We, from my own company, we work with a remote team. We work with remote, people from all over the world. And so we always have a, let's say, 2D way of communication, right? Using Zoom or any other video conferencing platform. If you in the future can actually engage with people sitting next to each other, talking to each other, whatever you're doing, whether it's a game or whether you're working or whether you're watching a movie together, right? It could also be, but then at least you can be engaging with the let's say, the people in the same space.
It is. It's very weird. It is a very interesting way to communicate with people when you're communicating in 3D, I guess, instead of a 2D cinema or using your body in real life.
And especially when graphics are evolving as well, it will take a bit more time. But when it evolves, and at some point, it's almost, if not, it's as realistic as it is in the real world. But then you're somewhere else. You mentioned if you're on the pitch somewhere, you feel like you're actually there. And if you're long enough in that space, you'll feel that you are there, which is nice, which I actually like. And you can move around, obviously. All right. So obviously, the tech landscape evolves really, really quickly. And I think as a tech company, you need to be, innovative, and you need to adapt really quickly. So what have you learned about innovation and adaptability that other leaders could benefit from?
So we've been around for about 5 years, and we've been through just about every FOMO term that you can possibly think of in the last 5 years. We've been through metaverse, the new AI, we went through NFTs, were one of the big ones. For us, as a tech leader, understanding what is driving the newest technology. So when people start screaming about AI, they keep thinking Terminator's coming. When that's AG, that term AI used to be Terminator, now it's AGI is the Terminator that you should be scared of. Understanding what is the technological drive or breakthrough. Right now, the current AI is driven through parallel processing using 3D graphics along with CPUs. So GPUs and CPUs together have created the new AI boom. If you don't understand that fundamental breakthrough, then you need to keep researching. You need to keep understanding that, okay, now we have these two processing units working together, and they're now reading large language models. It's if you're just getting stuck with the FOMO term and you're pivoting your entire business around an AI business just to get money, then it's very, very scary. So as a tech leader, you need to really understand, hey, what is the fundamental difference behind the FOMO term? And that's it's very tough to do sometimes. When some of the things that we're talking about in technology are insanely technical.
Yeah, I can imagine. But I think it's useful advice, right? It's useful advice for everyone to maybe look behind a bit further than only the surface. Let's think like that, right? Deeper than that. Okay, so and what advice would you give to other, let's say, maybe starting entrepreneurs who want to innovate, maybe let's say the VR landscape or any other where maybe adoption is still growing?
But yeah, again, it's almost to go back to the previous statement I just said. Make sure you understand the technicals, right? Big, super hungry gamer wanted to do something with head-mounted displays because that's kind of the pinnacle of gaming, and then had to reel back a good long way. And one thing that really helped was just going back and doing research on history. Hey, where did virtual reality come from? Where did AI come from? Right? If you go back and look at AI, Watson was able to help define AI in 2013. So AI has been around forever. If all of these individuals are busting into your area because now they have a couple cash dollars that they can spend on marketing, to kind of cancel out your voice and amplify theirs, don't worry. You have 15 years of experience. You could potentially have 10 years of experience in doing what you're doing. That you can make maybe the right immediate pivot on what you're doing, or what you're trying to help get other people to adopt, and what you're doing to help grow your startup or your technological advancement.
Yeah, I think that's interesting advice as well. So if you look at maybe the final question, obviously we're running out of time already. We could go for hours like this. So if you look at other industries, not in gaming, not in entertainment, we maybe scratched the surface of this question already a little bit, but how can they leverage virtual reality in a way that they transform maybe the way they work with or connect with their audience?
Yeah, so the two next, the next predominant after gaming is education, which is very interesting because you'd be like, hey, why are they allowing video games in education? That seems completely not. But it's shown that people that are completely immersed in these virtual experiences do better. They say there's old studies that show that people that play video games and drive race cars can be race car drivers. Gran Turismo is a good example of that. So education is usually a very, very good one. It gets you 80% of the way there with almost no resource usage, right? So I don't have to go burn a bunch of gas on a track to get track time. I can play on a video game. Not all the time does it cross over, but when you consciously immerse yourself, you're being taught, you're being educated on high level concepts. So education would be probably one of the next platform that virtual reality can really focus in on.
Yeah. All right. So I think our time is almost up. So I would like to thank you, Kyle. Obviously, it brings us to the end of the episode of The Future of Tech. And we want to thank you, Kyle Doran, obviously, for sharing your valuable insights and vision for the future. And thank you for listening. Stay tuned for more inspiring conversations about the future of technology. Until next time.